Hi YouTube. Today I wanted to make a video about phone screen sizes, how they're truly not bigger than what they may seem on paper. Usually this has to do with aspect ratio. Due to the way phones are made, they're made for one-handed operation, so they can't make it too wide. But oftentimes we see the display size and think that it's bigger just because the number is bigger. And it's true, it is going to be larger, but only horizontally, most likely, not vertically. So you get an extra few lines of text on the top, but it doesn't really get wider, nor would I call it a truly bigger display. Oftentimes, the larger displays do cost more. Granted, they do come with a bigger battery and a few more camera improvements. For example, the Galaxy S21 and the S21 Plus, there is going to be a price difference here. As you can see right here on the buy areas. Of course, when they go on sales, they start changing quite a bit, especially with Samsung. But just for this example, I'm looking here, it's about $100 difference. Of course, once again, it does have a few improvements there in the battery. It's a little bit bigger and things like that. But a lot of people pick the S21 Plus just due to the size alone. And is that really worth it? Because here it says it's 6.2 inches for the S21, and it says 6.7 inches for the S21 Plus. So we're looking at half an inch, which is quite a bit big of a difference, especially when it comes to phones. So one would think that it's going to be a much larger phone, but in reality, when you look at the dimensions, which is just coming up here, it's actually not very different. So if you look at the thickness, one is 7.8, the other one's 7.9, not too big of a difference there. But now when we look at the width, one is 71.2 millimeters, while the other is 75.6. So this one does have a little bit more width. Look at the length. One is 151.7, the other is 161.5. So almost about 10 millimeters difference here. So that's where you see the big size difference. But notice how it's only in the horizontal is that it gets bigger. It's not significantly bigger, it's just incrementally bigger. So in that case, I would say getting a larger phone sometimes may not be a sole reason to buy and pay the extra money and get the big model, as oftentimes, such as the Galaxy series, the base model is really not that much smaller than the Plus models. There is something to consider there. Now, if the aspect ratio was different and it says 6.7 inches, then of course it's going to be well worth getting and paying the extra money for, as this display actually will be bigger. But in these cases, it's so minuscule that I would not put it as a factor. Oftentimes people say when they have the iPhone 11 Pro Max or the 12 Pro Max, like the largest iPhones available, that they don't need an iPad mini. Now, that may be true, as they are pretty large displays, but does it make the iPad minis obsolete? The question of large phones are getting so large that iPad or mini iPad 8-inch tablets aren't really needed. Is that true? And the answer is no, because, for example, even a 6.7-inch screen like this S21 Plus that we have here versus a 7.9 iPad mini, it's going to be when we go back to aspect ratio, it's going to seem like the 6.7, 7.9, it's 1 inch difference, which is pretty big, but is it big enough to justify a whole other device? And many people go on thinking that if my phone's 6.7, I don't need a 7.9 inch display tablet. But the truth is you have to look at aspect ratio once again. That's the key factor here. 6.7 inches on these dimensions versus I believe it's 4.3 or 3x4 that iPad mini uses for their 7.9 inch display. That starts to make a big difference. It's almost double the size of what this S21 Plus is. So you're actually getting double the screen real estate. Yes, so getting a bigger display phone doesn't often mean that it's actually bigger. You have to consider other things, which is, once again, the magic word, aspect ratio. And also, you end up having to do a lot of finger gymnastics on the larger phones because they're so tall. You may not be able to get to the top. And most people, they never really read from top to bottom. They have to read from near the top and then go to near the bottom. They never really utilize the full thing unless they're looking at settings or something like that. So in that case, maybe a base model would be preferred as well. You don't have to do finger gymnastics, and also it's going to be easier for you to scroll down and move side to side and do other types of reading versus the other bigger size where sometimes it's so cumbersome that you have to change your hand placement just to get there. There's also an argument that if you have to use two hands even for the so-called small phones now, why not get the biggest? That's true, but even then, one-handed operation on a even 6.2-inch model can make a difference. The reason why I made this video is because I see so many people, not only in real life, but even in the comments of other videos, saying they want to get the plus size phone due to the screen. But as for the screen size, I would say I wouldn't. There's no need to factor that into your buying decision, as we have debunked that now.